Hi, I'm Micah Halpern. Thank you for joining me today as I do some thinking out loud. Our first segment is called Background Briefing. The first thing I've been thinking about is how October 7th transformed Israel, Jews, and lovers of Israel. Some turned away from tradition, but so many, even the kidnapped victims, embraced Jewish tradition, even reciting the Shema over and over and over again. There are no atheists in the Foxhole. It's a phrase that has been repeated, a phrase that, while it has no clear attribution, no conclusive creator, has strong reverberations. This phrase, or similar iterations of that very phrase, first emerged during World War I. World War I used the brutal tool of trench warfare. In World War I, if you were in the trenches, odds are you were killed or wounded. In World War II, the phrase emerged again. This time, it was attributed to one of two men, either U.S. Army Chaplain William Thomas Cummings or Lieutenant Colonel Warren J. Clear. While it is not clear, that is a pun, while it is not clear which military professional deserves the credit, it is perfectly clear that the notion has become part of the lexicon that describes the brutality of war, and that they turn their eyes to heaven when they're in the foxholes. During those moments of fear and bravery, people, even ardent atheists, pray to be saved from the butchery and the brutality and savagery of war. October 7th, 2023 was no exception. The lifestyles and behaviors, the traditions of so many Israelis that were kidnapped and taken hostage, and of their families and friends and communities, changed. The families and friends of many of those who were so violently and brutally and inhumanely murdered underwent transformative experiences. And so did the behaviors of those many Israelis, the members of the IDF also. Secular Israelis began to embrace Jewish ritual and practice, and religious Israelis too took on new Jewish traditions and significance and meanings. Soldiers enlisted, as well as reservists, were drawn to Jewish activities, Jewish songs, Jewish dance, Jewish learning, Jewish lessons, Jewish lectures. That's why, at their behest, tens of thousands of Bibles, prayer books, volumes of Mishnah and Gemara and Talmud were distributed to soldiers. That's why we are hearing the truly inspirational, even awe-inspiring stories that so many former hostages are revealing about the spiritual tools they used to survive. And we are learning of the quality and equally inspiring traditions adopted by their families as they ceaselessly and tirelessly worked and prayed for their release. Israel, a vastly secular Jewish society, returned to Jewishness when facing the abyss. Jewish tradition and observance, in which forms it took, offered the strength and the ability to go on day after day, month after month, year after year. It offered comfort, it offered consolation, it offered desperately needed hope. Rather than turning away from Judaism, so many embraced Jewish tradition. It is the Jewish response. It's how Israel coped after October 7th. It's how Israel survived. It touched everyone because Israel and lovers of Israel are one big family. That's why Omer Shem Tov, member of a totally secular family, placed toilet paper as if it were a kippah on his head on Shabbat when he was captive. Why, after returning home to Israel, he asked for a kippah and a Kiddush cup, and why he continued to add more and more Jewish rituals and traditions to his life. And now, since Omer's return, his entire Shem Tov family has embraced many Jewish traditions, not only on Shabbat, but also as part of their daily rituals. It's why Keith Siegel, an American Israeli, said Hamotzi, the prayer for bread, on every tiny scrap of bread that was doled out to him during captivity. It's why he said Shema over and over, the Jewish call to prayer announcing the unity of the greatness of the God of Israel. It's why so many hostages, despite the meager food they were given, only ate what was kosher and refused to perform Muslim rituals, even with the promise of more food. And even, like Eli Sharabi, made believe they were wrapping tefillin on their arms every day. It's how Matan Angrist repeated and repeated every portion of Torah that he knew, and now knows it all by heart. He sang, he prayed, he remained optimistic. Returned captive Bar Kuperstein's mother started the Tefillin movement, and the movement took off all around the world. People who ordinarily would not put on and wear tefillin started putting on tefillin on a daily basis and prayed for Bar. And Bar, while in captivity, promised that he would, if he ever returned home, he would give tzedakah, charity. Since his return, he put on tefillin and made good on his promises of tzedakah. A book of mitzvot was given to the families of Eyal, Yifrach, Naftali Frankel, and Gilad Shar. In the books were listed promises made by people they did not know to do mitzvot, acts of loving kindness, and prayers that would say on behalf of the kidnapped souls. Naftali's father Avi said that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted people to increase their mitzvot, their loving acts of kindness and activities in honor of their kidnapped children. The traumatic effect of October 7th has changed. It wrought on Israeli society that will be felt for generations to come. It takes time to see the impact, patience to understand the transformations. Even the name of the massacre that took place on Shmini Atzeret, October 7th, 2023, is still developing. That is to be expected. Originally, the Shoah was termed the Chorban, the destruction. It was given the same name that was used to describe the destruction of the first and second temples. Yad Vashem's original studies were entitled Studies in the Destruction, the Chorban. And then slowly the Holocaust emerged as its name, and then Shoah. Holocaust and Shoah together actually now. The massacre of October 7th might be the best name for that awful historic day. Just massacre, the massacre, without the date maybe, without Shmini Atzeret or October 7th, just the massacre, just like the Shoah. Coming up next, points of view. First up is a column from the Jerusalem Post. It was published on November 2nd, 2025, and it was penned by Yitz Greenberg. The column was entitled, Give Peace a Chance, Not Until the Palestinians Reject Terror. Opinion, subtitled, Israel cannot risk a Palestinian state until Palestinians prove they can reject terror and embrace democracy. This is a very important point of view. It explains exactly why a Palestinian state just can't be created. The first step must be the rejection of terror. This is how Greenberg begins. The polls show how 80% of Israelis oppose a Palestinian state. They say that granting them statehood would show that Hamas's tactics, terror, massacre, and rape, work. They win victories for Palestinians that nonviolent political action never attained. At one time, 80% of Israelis supported a two-state solution, as in 1948, post-1967, and other times. One can guess that the 30% of those against it are settlers, their allies, the right-wingers implacably opposed to any Palestinian state. Greenberg explains that October 7th changed the minds of Israelis who once firmly supported Palestinian statehood. He writes, however, 50% of the switchers are Israelis who were convinced by October 7th massacre that the Palestinians will never live in peace with Israel, especially as polls showed that 80% of Gazans and West Bank Palestinians initially approved Hamas's tactics. They considered October 7th a great victory over Israel. Therefore, a Palestinian state would be a terrorist dagger pointed at Israel's heart from Ramallah, 21 kilometers from Jerusalem, as opposed to Gaza, which is 5 times further away. Of course, a Palestinian state that does not denounce terror would be a continuous threat to Israel. But the international community is deaf to this issue, which is very disturbing. Greenberg continues and writes, on the other hand, the international community of nations overwhelmingly supports a two-state solution and has been reinforced by many of Israel's past allies, such as Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, who, out of sympathy for the Palestinian casualties in the Israel-Hamas war, have come out in support of a Palestinian state. Even the United States, Israel's closest ally under President Donald Trump, has said that to win the Palestinians away from Hamas, there must be some eventual political horizon for the Palestinians. Point 19 of Trump's 20-point plan. Is there some way Israel can give the Palestinians political hope without granting the Palestinians a state that will endanger Israel's existence? Greenberg explains the problem. The very essence of Palestinian claims to a state is to destroy Israel. Israel's destruction is preeminent in its dreams. He writes, at present, the Palestinians' national narrative is based on eliminating the Jewish state. This was shown in 1947 when the UN voted for the establishing a Jewish state and an Arab state. The Israelis accepted, however, the Arab nations' armies invaded, trying to destroy Israel rather than set up a Palestinian state. It's not as if there were not numerous chances to create a state, and Greenberg lists a few of them. He writes, Israel offered to allow the establishment of a Palestinian state on 95% of the West Bank in 2000 by Prime Minister Ehud Barak, and in 2009 by Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. But it was not accepted by the Palestinians, because they would not accept a permanent Jewish state alongside theirs. Greenberg thinks that Israel needs to lay down their red lines very clearly, and from there they can move. He writes, the government, that is the government of Israel, the government should state unequivocally that no amount of pressure for sanctions or sanctions can force Israel to accept the Palestinian state as currently. Palestine would be an existential threat to our state. The Palestinians cannot get a state without the approval/support of the Israeli people, and 80% of those Israelis are currently opposed to the Palestinian state and are convinced that Palestinians would not live in peace with Jews. Greenberg explains exactly what he's talking about and what Palestinians must do. They must denounce terror and must act against it. Greenberg writes, if the Palestinians truly turned away from violence, the terrorist actions would drop to zero. Families would report any attempted terrorist attack, and the public opinion would condemn and despise terrorists out of the knowledge that every successful murder or shooting only delays the day when the Palestinian state might emerge. Greenberg argues that Israelis would accept this and Bibi could sell it to his right-wing partners. He writes, if the Palestinians execute these strategies successfully, their leadership could approach the Israeli government and ask for statehood. There would be a national Israeli referendum. If the Palestinians pursued these policies for years, they would earn back the trust of the Israelis and would get the approval they seek. After all, Zionism is founded on the principle that every people is entitled to self-determination and nationhood. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu could sell this offer to his extremist coalition by telling them that the Palestinians will fail the test. Greenberg concludes with the hope that it will succeed, writing, admittedly, this approach requires that the Palestinians take a leap and trust the Israelis' sense of justice and fairness. Still, going through the Israelis is the only hope of ever getting their own state. This strategy puts their fate in their own hands. This policy can succeed, whereas the failed policy that their proxies and allies would destroy the Jewish state or force Israel to accept the two-state solution did not. Thank you, Yitz Greenberg. This was a very optimistic column, given the very dismal post-October 7th reality. Next up is also a column from Jerusalem Post, and it was written by Avi Jorish, published November 2nd, 2025. The column is entitled, With AI Technology Rapidly Advancing, Ethics Must Evolve as Well. Opinion, subtitled, AI can compose symphonies, design proteins, outthink grandmasters, but it is still up to humanity to decide right from wrong. I spend a huge amount of time on AI, and it is all around us, developing, and trillions of dollars are being invested. They're building it all over. I want you to know more about it. This is our first venture into it. We'll continue in this. I spend a significant amount of time trying to track and understand AI. This is how Avi Jorish begins. Last week, my son asked me, Baba, will robots ever pray? He wasn't really asking about machines. He was asking about us. In 2025, artificial intelligence can compose symphonies, design proteins, outthink grandmasters, but it still cannot tell the difference between right and wrong. We are living through humanity's most dazzling paradox. Our tools are getting smarter, and our species is not. Ray Kurzweil, the futurist who predicted much of today's technological reality, believes that within a decade, we'll cure most diseases, print replacement organs, and reverse engineer the brain. By 2045, he predicts, we'll merge with machines in what he calls the singularity, the moment when artificial and human intelligence become one. Yet others, like Oxford philosopher Nick Bostrom, warn that this same trajectory could end in catastrophe. The very same systems we build to perfect life could extinguish it. Elon Musk calls AI more dangerous than nukes. The Rand Corporation projects that algorithmic escalation could trigger a nuclear war by 2040. Jorish asks some serious questions, and they really need to be addressed. He asks, today, as we stand on the edge of quantum computing, gene editing, and artificial general intelligence, the pattern repeats. The tools evolve, the ethics lag behind. We need a new kind of moonshot, not just of science, but spirit. Imagine if every frontier technology, from AI to biotech to quantum computing, came with a humility checklist. Before developing, creators would have to answer not just, can we build it, but should we? Not just, what will it do, but what might it harm and who might it harm? Just as engineers stress test bridges, society should stress test moral load of tools shaping our destiny. Jorish is saying that limits and rails must be developed to ensure safety, he writes. There are glimmers of conscience. The European Union has passed the world's first AI Act, setting guardrails for algorithmic power. The Vatican's call for AI ethics gathers technologists and faith leaders to ensure machines serve human dignity. Universities from Stanford to Tel Aviv now embed ethics directly into computer science and engineering, treating moral reasoning as a core skill, not an afterthought. Still, we must go further. Each nation should create a council on the future of humanity, uniting scientists, ethicists, artists, and faith leaders. Their charge to ask the questions that markets and ministries rarely do. What is it all for? What kind of civilization are we becoming? The great danger of our age isn't malevolence, it's momentum. The quiet, frictionless drift of human power without direction. We are sprinting towards a future that few have stopped to imagine. George concludes by writing that the next revolution will be moral. We need to prepare for that. This is how he concludes. The question before us is no longer whether we can build smarter machines. We can. The question is whether we can build wiser humans, whether we can use our genius not only to solve problems, but to elevate the soul. The next great revolution will not be digital, biological, or quantum. It will be moral. Like every true revolution, it will begin within us, with the ancient, ever-new realization that technology is a mirror. What it reflects depends entirely on who we choose to be. If we will it, it is no dream, and wisdom will win. This is an excellent column. Thank you, Avi Jorish, for your wisdom and insight, and stimulating us to think more about AI. Coming up, commentary through cartoons, where pictures tell the story. I want to show you 7 cartoons today. Most of them are anti-Israel. Again, the international press is against Israel and against the United States, and thinks that everything they do, Israel and the United States, is wrong. These cartoons reflect their bias, and it's important for us to see that and see where they stand. This first cartoon, though, is an exception, is a puzzle, and Trump is putting the final piece in. It's a peace sign between Israel and Hamas. Like I said, the first cartoon is an unusual statement by a cartoonist because it's not critical at all. Next up is a Gazan sitting in rubble in Gaza, and he has a makeshift shower, and the water is dripping from a container. It's a very discouraging depiction of Gaza. Third up is a cartoon which depicts Israeli Prime Minister and United States President chummy, Bibi and Donnie, it's called. And the terrorists right next to them saying, "What about me?" This fourth cartoon has Trump wearing a mask. It's a mask of a dove, a peace dove. Attached to the mask is a peace table with the flags of Palestine and Israel and an olive branch. Like the very first cartoon, it's very positive, surprisingly positive. Fifth up is one of the many cartoons that show that the peace is being destroyed by Bibi and Trump. The two are not making peace, they're destroying peace. Sixth up is a cartoon that has a terrorist wearing a "Make Gaza Great Again" hat. It's funny in a very macabre way. Seventh up is Israel and the United States having dinner on a table, and it's a cooked dove in a pot with an olive branch. The note reads, "Trump's peace plan." Boy, some people are so negative. In a moment, more of my own perspective and a few predictions. Alabama Sheriff's Office, in collaboration with the FBI, thwarted a planned attack against synagogues and Jewish institutions in the state of Alabama and neighboring states. This was announced by the local sheriff's office, which reported the arrest of 33-year-old Jeremy Wayne Shoemaker. He was suspected of planning a mass attack. Shoemaker was arrested following multiple alerts about real and potential imminent threats. A search of his home uncovered numerous weapons, including suitcases full of ammunition, a bulletproof vest, additional equipment that authorities said indicated attack was being planned. Police said he admitted that he intended not to be caught alive, and evidence was found suggesting Shoemaker also planned to harm public officials. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, the chief, Rafael Grossi, said that Iran does not appear to be actively enriching uranium, but renewed movement has been detected at the country's nuclear facilities. He stated this in an interview with AP, noting that although agency inspectors don't have access to nuclear facilities, they haven't seen evidence in satellite imagery indicating uranium enrichment. The IDF struck a terrorist infrastructure where weapons and aerial devices, especially drones, were stored a short time ago in Beit Lahia in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. This was reported by the IDF spokesperson, who noted that the equipment was intended for use in the immediate range, that is, right now. Hostage survivor Eitan Horn, who was returned about 3 weeks ago, along with 19 other survivors, thanked the crowd and soldiers in a speech at Hostage Square. He said, I'm quoting, "This is not yet the time for conclusions. For 738 days, I dreamed about returning home. 738 days of pain, uncertainty, suffering, longing, and so many more difficult things. But I always knew one thing: my family and the Israeli society would not give up on me, even when it was really hard and dangerous, even when I was starving, even when bombs fell right next to me. I believed I would return to my brothers and my family. There are 11 families still in this nightmare. I'm not willing for the state of Israel to move on as long as the hostages are not home." Hostage survivor Bar Kuperstein, who returned to his home after being released from hospital, thanked hundreds of people who came to Cholon to welcome him and everyone who worked for his release. "Thank you to everyone who prayed for me. Thank you to my father and my mother. Thank you to everyone who helped me get out. I waited 2 years for this. I'm home." Bar told the crowd, "Thank you to my friends. Thank you to the city of Cholon that embraced me. Thank you to the Creator who strengthened me. Unfortunately, there are still bereaved families. We will not give up until everyone returns home." We've been thinking out loud about a lot today. Now that you know what I've been thinking, let me know what you're thinking. Email me at micah@jbstv.org. Tweet me at Micah Halpern. Tell me what you think. Before we end, let me leave you with one piquant piece of information. This clip is the end of the show of Eretz Nehederet, Israel's far superior version of SNL, Saturday Night Live. Before he was kidnapped, Elon Moore played for them. Now, after he returned home, he once again is playing his beloved piano despite his eye injury, which you can see. The cast of the show is singing a very famous song written by David Broza entitled Mitachat Hashamayim, Beneath the Heavens. One should have faith because we are all united together as one.
באנו לך מתחת לשמיים, שניים כמו זוג עיניים. יש לנו זמן מתחת לשמיים, בינתיים אנו עוד כאן, שנינו אחד, שנינו אחד, שנינו אחד, אחד שלם ועגול, שלם וגדול. באנו לך מתחת לשמיים, שניים כמו זוג עיניים. יש לנו זמן מתחת לשמיים, בינתיים אנו עוד כאן, ולמרות הצער ולמרות הכאב
ולמרות הצער
אני אוהב ואוהב ואוהב. השמיים, שניים כמו זוג עיניים. יש לנו זמן מתחת לשמיים, בינתיים אנו עוד כאן, באנו לך מתחת לשמיים, יש לנו זמן מתחת לשמיים, בינתיים אנו עוד כאן.
Wow, what an emotional and powerful rendition. So thankful that the living hostages are home. Thank you for thinking out loud with me, Micah Halpern. Let's think out loud again next week on JBS.